Okay, so picture this. XRP's ledger just came flying out of left field and landed smack dab in the number 2 position for this crazy important metric. And here's the kicker. This same metric has been like a crystal ball for predicting which coins were going to absolutely explode past their previous highs last cycle. The XRP crowd has been going absolutely bonkers on social media yesterday over this wild claim that their ledger just absorbed a whopping $1 billion worth of real-world assets getting tokenized. Now, you know how it goes with crypto headlines. They're usually part truth, part hype, part wishful thinking. But hold up, this one's actually legitimately huge for XRP's ledger. What went down here is the real deal and shows that real-world utility just took a massive leap forward, especially in the whole turning physical stuff into digital tokens game on XRP's platform. This isn't just noise, this matters big time, and I'm telling you right now, this is going to be front and center in XRP's playbook moving forward. So let me give you the straight scoop on what really happened, where people hit the bullseye and where they completely whiffed. Oh, and before I forget, I'm just some guy without any fancy finance credentials. This isn't investment advice, so don't go throwing your money around because of something I said, all right? So yesterday, this story started making the rounds, and honestly, it was the first report I stumbled across as everything was unfolding. But I pumped the brakes hard. I was like, whoa, this sounds almost too good to be true. You know how I am when something sounds absolutely incredible like this. I immediately go into skeptical mode. I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's some truth here, maybe it's partially accurate, but sometimes when stuff sounds this amazing, it's complete bogus. Luckily, this wasn't one of those times where we got burned. I dug up this piece from ICO Bench that has this whole section about real-world assets crossing the billion-dollar threshold on XRP's ledger. Check this out. The crypto world was basically throwing a party because this project just blew past the $1 billion mark in real-world assets, or RWAs if you want to sound fancy. This actually puts XRP in third place for this whole category, grabbing 7.6% of the market share. The only ones ahead of them? ZK Sync and Ethereum. And here's something worth pointing out. Ethereum is the only other Layer 1 blockchain in that top 3. ZK Sync? Nope, that's not a Layer 1. So this is what everyone's reporting, and they've got this screenshot of the RWA leaderboard from some website. I'm about to pull that up myself so you can see what it actually looks like right now. So here's where it gets interesting. Everyone's reporting that XRP's ledger suddenly jumped to third place on this list. But wait a minute. If we're only talking about actual Layer 1 blockchains, XRP is really sitting at number 2 behind Ethereum, since ZK Sync isn't a Layer 1. Now they're talking about this TVL thing, total value locked, and this is exactly that golden metric I was going on about at the beginning. Here's why this matters so much. Higher TVL was like a magic 8-ball last market cycle for predicting which coins were about to go absolutely nuts. This metric is seriously key because the higher that number climbs, the more cash starts flooding into the space. It's like honey attracting bees. Okay, maybe that's a terrible comparison, but you know what I mean. Money follows money, and this stuff is a major magnet. So get this. Almost all of this massive TVL boost comes from just one player, Vert Capital. These guys are a Brazilian company that handles securitization, and they launched their tokenized private credit platform on XRP's ledger back in July. And boom, they've pumped over $900 million into the network since then. The article wraps up with this prediction that real-world assets might become as game-changing for crypto as staking was when proof-of-stake networks first hit the scene. That's a pretty bold claim, but honestly, looking at these numbers, they might be onto something. They're throwing around these wild estimates, like $30 trillion worth of real-world assets that could eventually get tokenized. We're talking treasury bonds, stocks, commodities, the whole 9 yards. And honestly, I've been banging this drum forever, literally since I fired up this channel back in December 2018. But here's the thing that really gets me. The XRP crew had this whole thing figured out way before I even knew what crypto was. I'm talking years before I jumped down this rabbit hole. These folks were already seeing the writing on the wall, predicting that tokenizing all these assets on public blockchains like XRP's ledger was going to be massive. And now, it's finally happening. We're in 2025, and this thing is actually taking off. Think about this for a second. XRP's ledger has been sitting there for 13 years just waiting for this moment. 13 years. And now it's all coming together right before our eyes. So yeah, when this news started making the rounds yesterday, people were absolutely losing their minds, and honestly, they had every right to be. This is the payoff they've been waiting over a decade for, and it's finally here. So check out this example. Nick from Crypto Crusader posted yesterday, and he's like, whoa, hold up. Not sure if this is some kind of glitch on rwa.xyz. That's the website they're pulling this data from, by the way. He's saying XRP's total real-world asset value just absolutely exploded past the $1 billion mark, which would make XRP technically the second biggest Layer 1 network for RWA value, since ZK Sync is actually Layer 2. And then he drops this line. This is how fast things can change in the tokenization space. I totally get why he started with that healthy dose of skepticism. That's exactly where my brain goes to. Look, when someone makes a huge claim about anything, doesn't matter if it's crypto or whatever, my immediate reaction is, oh, really? You absolutely sure about that? Show me the receipts. But here's the thing about how we process information in real life. If I just met you and you casually mentioned you have a dog named Henry, I'd probably be like, cool, nice to meet you and Henry. I might even tell other people, yeah, I met this person who has a dog named Henry, because honestly, who lies about having a dog named Henry? It's such a nothing claim that there's no reason to doubt it. That's just how we roll in normal conversation. We operate on this basic level of trust for everyday stuff. Even though technically I can't verify whether you're telling the truth about Henry the dog, we kind of have to function this way or society would grind to a halt with everyone demanding proof certificates for every little thing. Listen, we can't go through life fact-checking every tiny thing people tell us. That would drive us insane. But here's the thing. That's actually how some people's brains work. If someone says casual, hey, I've got a dog named Henry, you're probably not going to question it. I mean, what kind of weirdo lies about their dog's name? So we just think, okay, sure, sounds legit, and move on, even though we don't actually know if it's true. But when we're talking about huge claims, and this one is absolutely massive, that's where I pump the brakes. I need solid proof here, because this is no joke. The more outrageous the claim, the more evidence you better bring me, or I'm definitely not going around telling people there's a $1 billion jump in real assets on the XRP ledger. Right now, this is just something being reported. I'm not buying it as fact yet. So yeah, Nick's got the right idea, being skeptical and wondering if it's some kind of glitch. That's exactly where your head should be at. So here's another example from Kevin Cage, a fellow XRP YouTuber. He's like, holy shit, XRP community, we're talking about jumping from $175 million to $1.13 billion in real-world asset value. Am I reading this right? Kevin's showing some healthy skepticism too, and honestly, who can blame him? Going from $175 million straight up to $1.13 billion? That's not just a big deal, that's absolutely massive. Now you can see where this is all coming from. The article got it right about Vert Capital being involved. That part checks out. It really is Vert Capital behind this whole thing. But here's what Kevin picked up on. We actually had news about this already. We knew back in July that Vert Capital was planning to pump money into both the XRP ledger and XDC. There were headlines floating around about it then. Here's the XRP piece from July 23rd. Brazil's Vert debuts tokenized credit platform on XRP ledger with $130 million issuance. So we totally saw this coming. We knew stuff was in the pipeline. And Kevin Cage had some pretty interesting thoughts about all this in a separate post. He's like, everybody mocked the XRP ledger when it started adding real-world assets, even though tokenization has been baked into the protocol from day one. Now look at us. We're sitting at number 3 for tokenized value, and that's not even counting stablecoins. Oh, and that's a huge point I forgot to mention earlier. These crazy numbers we're seeing, they don't even include stablecoins like RLUSD or USDC. So we're already talking massive figures without those in the mix. Kevin wraps it up saying we are early days, and he's probably right. Real-world assets and stablecoin adoption are just going to keep growing from here. We've got the Genius Act rolling out, which is basically the government saying, okay, here's how stablecoins are going to work. And trust me, they're not stopping there. We're going to see the same kind of rule books for real-world assets. Look, here's where this is all headed. Literally everything is getting tokenized. Your house, your car, that rare baseball card collection, all of it. And you know what? It's not even crazy anymore. This has been the obvious next step forever, and now we're finally watching it happen right in front of us. Honestly, it's kind of wild to see this stuff actually coming together. So yeah, the story we were looking at, totally legit, just maybe not the home run we initially thought it was. Basically, they got the big picture completely right. The specific numbers, a little wonky. But the whole tokenization is taking over angle, nailed it. So then Dom from EasyA jumps in. He's the co-founder over there, building stuff on the XRP ledger. And this guy was actually the first person I saw really dig into this and figure out what was actually going on. Because like I said, I was sitting there thinking, Over a billion? Look, if that's real, awesome. I'll be cheering from the rooftops, but let me pump the brakes until I know what's what. And Dom comes through with the real story. He's like, hold up, this massive influx of real-world assets on the XRP ledger, yeah, that's not right. Someone screwed up the currency conversion here. This was supposed to be counted in Brazilian reais, but it got reported in US dollars instead. So the actual number, we're looking at closer to $200 million. Still solid, but way different from that crazy billion-dollar figure that got everyone's hearts racing. Dom actually made another good point in a separate post. He's like, hey, it's still a big increase, which is awesome. And you know what? He's totally right. Even if the news had started at 200 million from the get-go, I would have been like, holy hell, that's massive. I mean, that kind of jump overnight, that's still absolutely huge news. Sure, $1.13 billion would have been even crazier, but honestly, even at $200 million, I would have been sitting there going, wait, is this number for real? Because that's still such a massive spike. When you throw around a billion, though, that's when I'm like, okay, come on now. That's getting into too good to be true territory. But even this smaller figure would have had me raising an eyebrow asking, really? Is that actually happening? Look, I'm not throwing anyone under the bus here for sharing what was being reported and asking the right questions. That's exactly what we should be doing as a community. Putting the info out there and saying, hey, here's what we're seeing. Does this check out? Totally reasonable approach. Now we've got the real facts and we know exactly what went down. That's how it should work. And check this out. Here's what the website actually looks like now. See, no more $1.13 billion. It's showing the real deal. $307.16 million in tokenized real-world assets on the XRP ledger, and that's still not counting stablecoins. That's a pretty solid number right there. So where does XRP actually stack up? We're sitting at number 9. Number 9. Now sure, there's room to climb, but XRP is positioned really well for this whole thing. And think about this for a second. XRP is at number 9 after spending the last 5 years getting absolutely hammered by the SEC. That lawsuit basically killed investment flowing into the XRP ledger, crushed development activity, scared off money across the board. Despite all that mess, we're still at number 9. That's pretty impressive when you think about it. But here's where it gets really exciting. Just wait until Ripple's Hidden Road gets their $3 trillion in annual transactions tokenized on the XRP ledger. Yeah, you heard that right, $3 trillion. They already said it's happening. And if I'm remembering correctly, Hidden Road is like the biggest prime brokerage on the planet, right? Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read a couple months back. That massive volume isn't even showing up on these charts yet. When that hits, XRP could absolutely skyrocket up these rankings. We're talking wild movement here. Look, I need them to actually deliver on this, but they wouldn't have announced it unless they were dead serious about making it happen. That's just one piece of the puzzle, too. XRP Ledger could legitimately end up at the very top of this list. And here's the crazy part. Most people in crypto have absolutely no clue about what I just told you regarding Hidden Road. They're completely in the dark. Even if that was the only thing XRP had going for it, which it's not, there's tons more. That alone would be enough to justify XRP's entire existence. There are so many reasons why XRP is crushing it early in this space. It couldn't be more obvious if it smacked you in the face. This is exactly why I'm walking around on Cloud 9 as an XRP holder. It's honestly surreal how spot on we've been about everything. We called it from the beginning, and now we're watching history unfold exactly like we said it would. It's literally a dream coming true. We nailed all of this stuff, and now it's playing out right in front of our eyes in real time. And because we stuck around through all the chaos, we're going to see life-changing money. It's absolutely wild. And when you compare where we are today to where we'll be in 10 years, it's going to be night and day in terms of real adoption and what that means for XRP's market price. This thing has stayed consistently ranked among the top cryptos its entire life, even while getting absolutely pummeled by the US government. So there you have it, people. Pretty awesome stuff to witness. I'm still calling this fantastic news. Sure, $1 billion would have been way more exciting, no kidding. But a $200 million jump in one night? Yeah, I'll gladly take that every single time. Bring it on. Quick reminder though, I'm definitely not your financial advisor. Don't make any buying or selling decisions based on what I'm rambling about here, okay? That'd be a seriously terrible idea.